Today we'll be going through my mock draft 2.0 for the Kansas City Chiefs and see what areas I went different than in my mock draft 1.0. But before we do get into all of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. Now, before we get into my NFL mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs 2.0, let's do a little recapping as of last week and go back to what I selected for the Kansas City Chiefs in my first mock draft of the 2023 NFL offseason. So, in the first round, I selected pass rusher out of Kansas State, Felix Uzma. As we know, pass rusher has been a major need for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I feel like that would be a solid selection. Then we fast forward into the second round, and I selected wide receiver out of SMU, Rashee Rice. If you guys are new to the channel, you're probably going to hear it a lot throughout the draft period is, I'm a huge Rashee Rice fan. And if you could snag him in the second round, that would be perfect wide receiver depth in the future, and also he could be an immediate impact starter for the Kansas City Chiefs, possibly in his rookie year. And then let's move forward into round 3, where another area of concern is the defensive tackle position. And I went with, not pass rusher, but defensive tackle out of South Carolina, Zach Pickens. He's a big, sturdy guy. He knows how to get after the quarterback, but he also knows how to stop the run, which is something the Kansas City Chiefs need now. Let's focus on today's mock draft. And as I mentioned, and as we all know, is the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they are Super Bowl champions, they still do have holes. Not a lot, but some that may leave an area of concern for Chiefs Kingdom. Now, the main two we hear throughout the whole offseason is wide receiver and pass rusher, and that can be interchangeable. But I think one that we need to focus on a lot is defensive tackle. I think all three of those are a huge area of need for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they can address either one of those in the first round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it up completely from my mock draft 1.0 as we get into this 2.0, and let's go right into round 1. So again, as I mentioned in my NFL mock draft 1.0, we're not going to do any trades. We're going to keep it normal, and then maybe as we get closer to the draft period, I'll start doing trades. So we're sticking at pick 31. I'm going to have them still staying on the defensive side of the ball, selecting defensive tackle out of Michigan, Mazi Smith. Now, this is kind of an underrated selection, but it depends on who you ask. Now, Mazi Smith is probably the best defensive tackle, not best defensive tackle, but top 3, because of course you got Jalen Carter, and his status is starting to drop too, and it's going to be interesting to see how far he will slide down draft boards, because the more and more he slides can affect a guy like Mazi Smith going into the first round. There are projections Mazi Smith can be selected from pick 15 and all the way to the end of the first round, which is right where the Kansas City Chiefs are. And if he slides maybe into that 23 to 30 range, we all know the Kansas City Chiefs can anticipate to trade up if they are on his radar like that. The reason I went with defensive tackle, as I mentioned to start this video, pass rusher, wide receiver, and I believe you should add defensive tackle as one of the main area of concerns for the Kansas City Chiefs. But the more and more I focus on it, I think the defensive tackle should be issue number 1. I think that's the biggest hole on this team. As I mentioned in the past as well, is without Chris Jones, actually without anyone going into the 2024 offseason, none of them are under contract. That's including Chris Jones. Yes, we are waiting for a contract extension for him, and best believe he will get it, and he will probably be under contract for the Kansas City Chiefs through the rest of his career. But that's kind of a scary sight to know that you don't have any defensive tackles under contract throughout the 2024 season. So you kind of need to add depth. Also, too, we've seen the rotation with Colin Saunders, then Derek Nottie, and when Tashawn Wharton was healthy at that second defensive tackle spot. None of them have really made an impact to solidify them as a full-time starter on the other side of Jones. This is why I went with Mazi Smith, because he has the talent, he has the upside, and he also can help Chris Jones. Is what Chris Jones needs as well, is he needs a partner in crime. He needs a Robin to his Batman, to where, hey, we can be a duo, and you could take some of these double pressures off of me, and I can get after the quarterback. And as I mentioned, Mazi Smith is a solidified run stuffer as well. His aspect of the game is actually very, very good. He's a big boy. He's a stocky boy where he can stop the run and he gets after the quarterback too. He'll be the one to initiate that first push, which is something exciting to see because that's something Chris Jones does as well. So it's like, hot potato, who's going to get there first? And that's something I would love to see. And I think that's a big area of need more than a pass rusher. Yes, pass rusher is still an area of concern, but if you look at it now, you got George Karlaftis, you got Mike Dana. They are going to bring in another guy like a Carlos Dunlap. He may re-sign. And there are some veteran pass rushers. We see this every year with the Kansas City Chiefs where when it comes July, August, one of those vet guys sign in and come in, and then they're ready to play and start the season for the Kansas City Chiefs. That may even be Frank Clark again, and they will draft someone as well. There's not much depth there, but there's more depth there than there is in the defensive tackle room, and I think that needs to be addressed early on. And as you've seen in my other mock draft too, I went with Zach Pickens, but I wasn't too comfortable because when you get to the third round, and maybe that's just my inexperience and knowledge going into the draft, but the talent pool kind of slims out a lot. So maybe you need to go in and get a pure solidified defensive tackle to partner with Jones instead of reaching in the third or fourth round and hoping to get your guy, unlike a pass rusher or a wide receiver. The second and third round is where the depth gets really good. Unlike you may be taking a risk in the first round, specifically with the wide receiver, so you might want to select that in the second or third. I think defensive tackle, as of this week, may be the route to go for the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round. But now that we move into the second round, I'm going to still stay on the defensive side of the ball. And now we're going to get our pass rusher. And this has been the most popular pick that you will see from any mock draft, probably any NFL analyst. If they're picking a pass rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs in the second round, they're going with Derek Hall. And there's reason why the Kansas City Chiefs would be interested and why analysts have him slotted in the second round to the Chiefs, because he could be a high-end second round, maybe even first-round pick when it's all said and done. But the dude knows how to get after the quarterback. He knows how to get after the run. And that would be a really, really great tandem to watch in the future with Derek Hall and George Karlaftis just eating away at the tackles. And then you got Mozzie Smith and Chris Jones. That's a very, very promising line to look forward in the future. As I mentioned, Derek Hall, he's a big, big dude. Like, one thing that I love about him as a pass rusher is, as we mentioned with George Karlaftis, is he's relentless. He has a never-ending motor, and that's what you'll see on the tape. I think the most impressive game I've seen was when he was against Alabama. I think he had 3 sacks going against Bryce Young, and we know how mobile Bryce Young is. And you hear he may be the #1 pick in this year's draft, and he was causing chaos, havoc. He was making his day very, very difficult. There was one sack where he wasn't even a part of it, and then he ran all the way to the other sideline and shoved him out of bounds. That's that motor that we always hear about George Karlaftis that Derek Hall has too. These motor guys will be very, very good for this team, and I'm growing to the fact that Derek Hall would be a very, very exceptional pick. The only thing I'm just curious about, because we're doing all these number changes, and he's number 29, man, if he was wearing Eric Berry's number as a pass rusher, that would look so clean, and I would love it. Now, I don't know if that's a thing. I mean, players can wear 0 now, so I'm pretty sure Hall can wear number 29. I would love to see that, and I think if you solidify the first 2 rounds with Mozzie Smith and Derek Hall, you got a bright future for this Kansas City Chiefs defense. A lot of people are already having high expectations, hoping that Steve Spagnuolo can get this defense to a top 10 caliber. That way Mahomes doesn't have to be scoring 30, 40 points, and the offense has to be dependent on to win every game. Even though we always love a high offensive shootout, and we know Patrick Mahomes will put points on the board, but if you give him a top 10 defense and he's still cooking with a top 5 offense, I ain't gonna say it, but this team may be very, very, very hard to beat. Now, let's get into my final round of the mock draft, round 3. And I know what you're thinking, Chiefs Kingdom. We waited all offseason. We've heard DeAndre Hopkins rumors, Odell Beckham rumors. We haven't signed a receiver. Now we're going into round 3 and we still haven't got a wide receiver. I could imagine all that chaos in draft day if literally the Kansas City Chiefs focus on defense in the first 2 rounds and they're like, Patrick Mahomes still has no one to throw to. I can literally see Chiefs Kingdom just losing their minds. First things first though, Andy Reid, Brett Veach, they really, really believe in Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. When they say that they're going to be Patrick Mahomes' top 2 options besides Travis Kelce, I mentioned it plenty of times. You gotta believe them. And I'm excited to see them and taking another step and being more fully involved in this offense. Honestly, I'm more excited for Sky Moore. I think he's going to elevate his game to the next level. We already know the potential Kadarius Toney brings to this offense, and we've seen him when healthy. It's like, oh, he's a baller. He goes up and gets the football. He has speed. He has the agility. He has the elusiveness. He comes as advertised. I know the main question and concern is, can he stay healthy for 17 games? But I mentioned this as well. If he does stay healthy, you can't tell me if Kadarius Toney is healthy for 17 games, he is not a number 1 receiver and he doesn't have over 1,000 yards. That would be nearly impossible. He's way too talented. He is built as a number 1 receiver. We just got to see how it all unfolds. And then Sky Moore, I don't know. Maybe I'm believing in him too much, but I think he's going to take leaps and bounds over his rookie year, and he's going to take over. We've seen what he's done in college. We've seen even last year, even though the ball wasn't getting to him, he was cooking dudes. It's just the chemistry wasn't there with him and Mahomes, and also Sky Moore came out of a smaller college, so transitioning to a small college like Western Michigan and then going to the NFL, but not even only going to the NFL, learning Coach Reid's playbook where it takes most veteran wide receivers a full year or 2 to learn that playbook is a tough challenge. So I expect Moore to be more developed and ready to go, and the chemistry between him and Mahomes to be on full blaze going. I'm just waiting for them to partner up in Texas. That way Chiefs Kingdom will be like, oh, they are ready to go. And another wide receiver that has the Kansas City Chiefs hyped, well, Chiefs Kingdom most importantly, is Justin Ross keeps releasing these hype videos of him training. And I will give it to you guys. He does look crispy. He does look smooth. He knows how to get low and cut clean on his routes. I really, really want Justin Ross to make this team. I'm not driving that hype train just at the moment because I got to see him on the field. I've seen Sky Moore on the field. I've seen him cook Derwin James. I've seen Kadarius Toney, when healthy, be a good receiver, potentially a wide receiver number 1. That's why I'm fully on board with those 2. I need to see Justin Ross be healthy. You got to remember, he was an undrafted free agent. Yes, it was because of health concerns, but also he was sliding down draft boards even before then too. So you got to be very, very cautious with him. I hope he makes the team because he would be Mahomes' first lengthy wide receiver that very physical, very good with his hands, and can cause problems for defenses. So I hope it transitions and takes the next step, but I'm just crossing my fingers. I'm not saying he's going to be a wide receiver number 2 in this offense. I can't go there yet. But what we will go to is finally to round 3, we will select our wide receiver. We'll go with another speed guy. It's one Chiefs Kingdom loves very, very much. And if he's there, I think the Kansas City Chiefs select wide receiver out of Nebraska, Trey Palmer. Honestly, I'm surprised his draft stock is this low. I think just from what I've seen, he could be a second round pick, and he may even be. This dude runs a 4.3 40. He blazes everyone. He may not have the perfect route tree, but it's better than some receivers I have already seen. And I just think he fits Coach Reid's offense very, very well to where he will be playing week 1 and he will be having snaps in the slot, and then you would be running with guys like Kadarius, Trey Palmer, and Sky Moore. Nothing too crazy, nothing too big, but guys that can keep the defense on their toes, and that's what you need. And that's also what Brett Veach and Coach Reid always go after is, yes, a lot of Chiefs Kingdom loves A.T. Perry, but we just haven't seen that big lengthy receiver. Could they transition and be like, you know what, let's get him a big body? They most definitely can, but Right now, I'm going with what the evidence of the past has shown me and what typical wide receiver Andy Reid likes. And I think Trey Palmer fits that perfectly. This dude is explosive. He knows how to move. It's hard for one man just to keep up with him. And Kansas City Chiefs, they don't need speed like that because Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and MVS are very much equipped to run past anyone, but you can never have too much. A new day and era for the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver. The Legion of Zoom is gone, but maybe we're building something a little close to that. Maybe we're building a core with much more depth that could put more production on the field and be more reliable for Patrick Mahomes and even Travis Kelce. We've seen with the Legion of Zoom in the past is if they're gone and Travis Kelce has to work and then he's getting doubled, it could be a rough day in the office. So it's going to be exciting to see what this wide receiver looks like moving forward and how this depth in the room continues to grow. I know it's getting concerning because we haven't done anything in the offseason, but Brett Veach has a plan. And if he doesn't select someone until round 3, best believe even if they're selected in round 3, they will make an impact on this team. With that, Chiefs Kingdom, let's give it a quick recap of my mock draft 2.0. In the first round, I selected Michigan defensive tackle Mazi Smith. In round 2, I selected defensive end out of Auburn, Derek Hall. And then at round 3, we wrapped it up with wide receiver out of Nebraska, Trey Palmer. You let me know how you feel about those selections. If the Kansas City Chiefs pick those 3 guys, I feel like it's a solid group and get me to 2023 and let's repeat. With that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to sign off. But before I do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Like this video as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related. Y'all take care.